Welcome to this evening. I'm Kathy Hartley, and these are my co-chairs, Dina Clevenger and Carol Lamb. This is the 7th annual Love is Brewing. We started over 8 years ago because we really felt a need to educate the community about domestic violence. So we started in Ojai with 75 people, all women, and dressed in fancy hats and brewing tea. And we've evolved greatly. Now we include human trafficking because that's such a large part of Interface's prevention and intervention. And now we include men because men are such an important part of the conversation. And so tonight we can invite everybody to come and enjoy. And it was and is about not only fundraising, but about inspiring you to learn more about domestic violence in our community because it is so prevalent.
Thanks, Kathy. It's such a pleasure to work with you and with Dina and with all of the very hard-working people on our Love is Brewing committee. I really became aware of the scope of Interface's work after joining its board of directors 2 years ago. As a lifelong educator, I've developed an awareness of those most susceptible to abuse. So learning about Interface's service to the most vulnerable in our community really moved me deeply. None are more vulnerable than the victims of human trafficking and domestic violence. In many cases, the pandemic has isolated these victims and made it even more difficult to break out of the cycle of abuse. I've been so inspired by the personal stories of success and survival made possible by Interface's programs. And I'm committed to help Interface continue this life-saving work.
We are so excited to have you join us in this virtual space and to learn all the great things that Interface does. We hope tonight inspires you to join Interface's part of the solution and support their life-saving intervention and prevention work. Tonight's program, we will have entertainment, we will have inspirational stories. Don't forget to check out the auction. We have a lot of fabulous items from local shops, local restaurants, people that want to support Interface.
Thanks, Dina. While we are here to enjoy this informative and inspirational event, please remember, Love is Brewing is a fundraiser. Interface relies on your compassion and your generosity to support these vital services to victims of domestic violence and human trafficking, as well as educational programs for the prevention of these abuses. There will be multiple opportunities throughout the program to show your support for Interface's crucial mission in our community.
Thank you so much for your support. I'd like to introduce returning MC Jeff Morehouse.
Thank you, Kathy, Carol, and Dina. Hello, and welcome to the 7th annual Love is Brewing benefit. I am Jeff Morehouse, your MC for the evening, and I am honored to be back for the 3rd year in a row. We look a little bit different this year, but the mission has stayed the same, bringing awareness and resources to Interface's domestic violence and human trafficking intervention and prevention across our region. I am looking forward to spending the evening with you. You enjoying some exciting performances, learning more about Interface's important work, and bidding on some great auction items. I would like to thank our sponsors who have made this evening possible. Your commitment and support of this important work allows Interface to continue to be there for so many in need in the region. Kick back, and I'll see you a bit later on.
Hello, my name is Eric Sternad, and I'm the Executive Director at Interface Children and Family Services. And welcome to Love is Brewing 2021. We're delighted to have you join us today because just by being here, you are expressing your love and caring and commitment to our community. Now, you may know Interface for a lot of the different services that we have. We provide mental health services, runaway homeless youth shelter. We work with young children and families. We help them to prevent abuse and neglect from happening in the first place. We also are providing support to returning offenders coming back and rejoining society. And you may have referred someone to our 211 information and assistance line for any kind of health and human service need that they might have. But what we really want to focus on today is on our domestic violence and human trafficking work. A few years back, we started to realize that many of our domestic violence clients had also been caught up in trafficking. And so we started to shift and include human trafficking alongside our domestic violence prevention and intervention work. And so we're going to be focusing on that today, and you'll hear some of that struggle and those that sort of heart-wrenching reality of trafficking in our community, but you're also going to experience some of what we see, that hope rising in the eyes of our clients as we work with them day to day. So we want to thank you for being here. Your generosity in the past has really enabled Love is Brewing to do so much for Interface and enable us to reach so many more people in our community. And so in anticipation of your generosity today, we want to thank you. There are Fund a Need opportunities for you that you can find below on your screen, and we hope that you can find something there that can be your expression of caring and commitment to the amazing survivors that we have the privilege of working with. So from all of us, the board of directors, our amazing staff, and our volunteers, we really want to thank you for being part of the solution in our community.
Historically, domestic violence has been seen as a private matter, as something that happens behind closed doors, as something that we don't necessarily talk about or get involved in if we kind of notice some signs. And some of the changes that I've seen in the last 10 years is really more of a concern for folks, and more involvement, more awareness. More folks are asking questions. Another thing that I've noticed is we have historically centered around victim blaming, asking questions such as, why don't they just leave? Why doesn't he just leave? Why doesn't she just leave? Why do they put up with this? And so a shift has been that now we're starting to move away from victim blaming and really looking at how, why is this happening in the first place? Why is the abuser causing harm? How can I show up for this family, for this individual? And so I'm noticing that, and I love seeing how the community is coming together and not feeling so ashamed to talk about it.
We're noting the fact that men and women are almost abused at the same rate. And this is really stemming from our efforts in diving into what communities look like, especially with our LGBTQ+ community, and now really looking at the factor of toxic masculinity in the sense that men don't want to talk about these issues. They feel like they can't, and if they do, they're weak, and that's simply not the case, because we really are here to empower all individuals and really ensure that they can feel safe within their own communities.
Interface definitely has impacted our community, and I feel like it helps anyone that walks through our door, whether it be just a safe place to stay for 30 days and know that you are safe and that no one's gonna hurt you or your family, or it's during your time here finding stable housing and putting you in contact with those resources that you didn't know our community offered.
In the first 18 months after being trained on human trafficking, 4 clients in our domestic violence programs were identified as being possibly trafficked by their partners. Shortly after that, we joined a local coalition of community partners who began working collaboratively to address the issue of human trafficking. Through that collaboration, the reputation that Interface had for our work with domestic violence, we received our first dedicated funding to help expand our domestic violence hotline and response team to now include services for adult victims of human trafficking. While that community service prevailed, we quickly identified a need for housing that was dedicated to this population, which led us to obtaining funding that enabled us to begin the county's first emergency shelter for adult survivors of human trafficking. During this period, we continued to collaborate with our community partners. We co-founded a network for human trafficking advocate agencies to connect statewide and build out an informal process for law enforcement to activate our response team and refer victims to our services. We learned that the need for a formal protocol and task force was needed to accurately address human trafficking in our area and to establish a system between agencies that was trauma-informed and victim-centered.
Human trafficking is a crime against a person that steals their freedom for profit through the means of force, fraud, and coercion. Interface provides a variety of services to victims of human trafficking, starting with safety planning for victims that are actively escaping a trafficking situation. We also provide comprehensive, culturally responsive case plan with each client, so we understand that not every victim is the same. They all vary from nationality, they speak different language, different cultural beliefs and values and religions. So having that cultural component plays a huge role into how we build rapport with each victim.
So anyone could be affected by domestic violence. Domestic violence does not discriminate in gender, race, age, ethnicity, or economic status. Domestic violence could be emotional abuse, obviously physical abuse, as well as economic abuse, withholding that power over them. So sometimes there is no physical abuse at all, but the abuser will use other ways to exert their power. We help clients see those red flags and give them the tools that they need to make better choices and have healthy relationships in the future.
Please enjoy this next performance.
Heavy heart, bleeding for their lives. Nowhere to run, oh, nowhere to hide. In this world, we're born to play the game. Well, righteous is wicked and time just keeps ticking when we're dying in the name of love. Oh, Lord, Lord. Change gonna come. Change gonna come. Empty hearts don't sleep at all tonight because they're so afraid to know the reasons why they must fight. Keep on believing, a message worth receiving. We're reaching the high. When all is understood, we're all one brotherhood. Can we learn to see through our different lives? A different light. Oh, Lord, Lord. Change gonna come.
I'm honored to introduce Greg Totten, former Ventura County District Attorney, and Mike Jump, Chief Deputy District Attorney and Chief Executive Officer for the Ventura County Family Justice Center, our 2021 Champion for Change honorees.
Good evening. I'm Greg Totten, the retired district attorney for Ventura County, and I'm coming to you this evening from my new office in Sacramento as the chief executive for the California District Attorneys Association. I want to congratulate Interface, to congratulate Eric Sternard on just the wonderful things that this organization does, and I want to thank you for this recognition as a champion of change for Interface for 2021. It's really a great honor to receive this recognition. You know, when we first started looking at the needs of domestic violence victims, and particularly children that are exposed to violence in a home, we knew we had to bring in important collaborators. We knew we had to bring in those organizations to work with us on developing this program, and Interface was a key collaborator that really helped make a difference in the development of this program. Back when it began, when the planning began in 2015, we knew we had a problem. Nearly 7,000 calls were made that year to law enforcement, calls of domestic violence. We also had experienced 5 separate domestic violence homicides in the short space of 1 year. We knew we had to do something different. And that began the development of the Ventura County Family Justice Center. And our focus all along has been to better serve the victims of domestic violence, the victims of human trafficking and other family-related crimes, and to also serve those who live in the home, particularly children, who are exposed to violence, to put them on a pathway that moves out of that generational cycle of violence and leads them in a more productive, more helpful, more fulfilling, more hopeful life. Interface throughout the 5 years of preparation to the grand opening in January of 2020 was a key player in this effort. And frankly, we could not have opened the Family Justice Center without the invaluable assistance of Interface Children and Family Services. The work this organization does makes a difference in our community every single day. You reach out and touch the lives of victims. You reach out and touch the lives of children that have been exposed to violence in a hugely important way. And I'm just so grateful for all you do on behalf of our community. And I wish you many more years of success and passion in serving people who are truly needy in Ventura County. Thank you again, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Greg. We're delighted to be able to honor you. And we're delighted to have Mike Jump with us, the Chief Deputy District Attorney in Ventura County. And so we're so pleased to be able to honor you and the former District Attorney, Greg Totten, with the Champions for Change Award. Mike, you've been a tremendous force in our community. We have a family justice center as a result of Greg's vision and your hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, I'm sure.
Yes.
So would love to hear about what is the Family Justice Center and why have you been such a passionate advocate for it?
Well, I think first I just want to say thank you to Greg Totten. He was the guy who really had the vision to make this happen. And he had seen family justice centers in other jurisdictions in California and wanted one in Ventura County.
Yeah.
And so at its heart, it is a multi-agency collaborative. We've got about 15 agencies that are on site in one building.
That's great.
And what we do is provide wraparound services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, elder abuse, dependent adult abuse, and human trafficking.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do was just make access to those services easier.
Yeah.
and tear down some of those barriers so that people that needed the help could get the help when they needed it.
Yeah.
And those services range from legal aid, family law, to housing, to organizations like Interface that are on site providing all of the services that you all provide.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. So say something about the gaps that you see the Family Justice Center filling in our community.
Well, I think access is the huge gap, right? And so what we really wanted to do was to try to reduce those barriers to access that are not just geographic, but they're chronological as well.
Yeah.
So you get a young victim of domestic violence that's got 2 kids at home. You then expect that victim to set up, if you want to touch all of the services we have at the Family Justice Center, 15, to set up 15 different appointments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then go to 15 different geographical locations.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
And so, what we see is a lot of victims giving up and not exercising those options.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest gap. And then the other gap is just knowledge about all the services that
What's
exist.
available. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're so blessed in Ventura County to have wonderful partnerships, wonderful agencies that are doing great work.
Yeah.
But getting the word out there that those things are available and they can access them has been a challenge.
Yeah. Why Interface as a partner? What have we been able to bring to the FJC that's been helpful?
I think what really seals the deal for me and why you had to be part of the center is our shared experience with borderline.
Yeah.
And so that was really the first mini Family Justice Center that we had.
Yeah, that's right.
We had these very vulnerable victims.
Set it up on the fly.
And we set it up within 24 hours.
Yeah, amazing.
And it was because that trust, I could pick up the phone and say, hey, Eric, we need your staff in this building because we have 300 victims of this mass shooting that need help.
Yeah.
And you and all of the other folks that we've been talking to about the Family Justice Center responded and performed beautifully. And we got to see how that little mini kind of collaborative could really expand and be ongoing and provide continuous service to vulnerable victims out there. And so that's why.
It is a tremendous asset now for our community. And so since you've opened in 2019, what are some of the changes that you've seen over these last couple of years? It's been a wild last year for sure.
Well, let's see. November, December, January, February, chaos, right? That's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And so we were starting to really work out some of the logistical bugs, the flow of how we were going to navigate victims through all of these service providers on site, and focused on expanding those services and service providers. And then with COVID, we pretty much had to reassess how we could do all of this safely now.
Yeah.
It's really been a driver, though, for innovation for us.
Great.
So we've been able to pioneer some things with the courts that, frankly, would probably not have happened without the pandemic. We were able to pioneer electronic filing of restraining orders with the court and video conference appearances for victims so that they wouldn't have to go to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And those things are all positive. They were born of necessity, but they're all really positive because we know from experience that victims often will run into their abuser at court where they're waiting for their appearance, and it's a very dangerous situation.
Re-traumatized.
Exactly. So.
For all these reasons, this is why you are our champion for change, and we're just impressed with what you've done. We're delighted to be part of that partnership, and so congratulations from all of us. And we're delighted to have you as a partner, as a friend, in doing this really important work. Thanks, Mike.
Well, I'm really, really humbled, and I want to thank you for the recognition, and also just appreciate your partnership.
You're welcome. So, Jeff, obviously this event is really going to be critical for us to continue these services throughout the year. Can I ask you, what inspires you to give to the work that Interface is doing?
Well, to see what happens to the victims and to see an organization like Interface step up and make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And we can't do that without the funding from community partners and from the community in general.
Yeah.
And so it's time for us to give up and give for this cause.
This is the time. There are Fund a Need opportunities that you can find down on the screen. It'll be open all week, and you can be part of the solution in our community to help Interface do this critical work with our partners on behalf of victims to really see them make that transformation to become survivors.
Interface has been providing domestic violence services for over 40 years, and we were actually one of the first shelters to open in the state of California. Some of the services that we offer include emergency shelter, transitional housing, support with crisis intervention, safety planning. We have our 24-hour hotline that's available for survivors in the community to engage and ask questions and learn a little bit more about services, resources, and the topic of domestic violence.
Human trafficking interventions, this was an identified gap in our community that was a community concern. Knowing that we were identifying individuals in our domestic violence programs that fit the indicators of human trafficking victimization, we began to create services within our existing capacity that were tailored to address the needs of this specific population, until we were able to obtain funding that enabled us to enhance these services into what they are today.
So our health care is about DV and HT being domestic violence and human trafficking. That's really about us going into the medical professionals and informing them what do domestic violence look like, what does human trafficking look like, and how can they help. That we really dive into a lot of screening assessments and how do you actually communicate what is going on, and that really helps kind of make that bond a little bit stronger between the patient and medical professionals, that they can both better understand the situations that the patient is in.
So our agency has been innovative in the way that we continue to respond out to victims in the community, whether it's domestic violence or human trafficking. We know that a lot of agencies have moved to more virtual assistance, so we have been able to continue to be in person and respond out still to any calls that we get from law enforcement or medical service providers. The community can support our team and clients by providing donations, whether big or small.
So something that the community can help with is if you see something, say something without jeopardizing your own safety. And sharing our hotline to anybody that you feel may need someone to talk to or a little bit more support with their situation. Our hotline number is 1-800-636-6738.
One of the things that I'm mostly excited about as we think about the evolution of our department really is to be able to expand our prevention efforts regionally. One of the things that we'll be doing is providing training and technical assistance and capacity building for a lot of our regional partners. So that is a very new and exciting piece of our chapter here that I'm really excited to be a part of.
As preventionists, we provide a plethora of resources. We start anywhere from little ones to all the way up to adults. We first start with our My Body Belongs to Me presentations. That's really focused on child sexual abuse prevention. As we get a little bit more into high schools, that's when we really start to focus on our teen dating violence prevention efforts through our encouraging healthy relationships, and that's really breaking down what exactly do abusive relationships look like, not only intimate, but also in a form of more just social interactions, whether it can be in the workplace or anything like that. When we mention prevention, that's really about our individuals being able to recognize these abusive behaviors, whether it's human trafficking or domestic violence, what kind of goes on behind it. And then it should empower them to say, you know what, this is something that shouldn't be happening. I can speak up. I know the resources and where to go.
We have just begun our efforts here in our local area and are really excited to see what great innovative ideas and systems we can create to further enhance the opportunities for victims to live a life free from exploitation and further our mission of a community that is safe, healthy, and thriving.
Good evening. I'm Olivia Newton-John, and it's an honor to be invited to be a part of this special evening on behalf of Interface Children and Family Services. Your support tonight provides the funding needed for life-saving crisis response, advocacy, shelter, and counseling services for more than 1,000 survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking. Please join me tonight in supporting Interface's domestic violence and human trafficking prevention, intervention, and awareness programs and services so that this important work will not only continue, but expand and evolve to meet the needs of children and families in our region for years to come. Thank you.
So my name is Wendy Barnes. I am the coordinator for the Violence and Human Trafficking Prevention and Response Program at Common Spirit Health. So the reason that I am so passionate about this program is I am a survivor of sex trafficking. I met my trafficker when I was 15 years old in high school. He was 16 years old, so he was just another boy at school with me. He asked me for my telephone number, and that was just so amazing to me. And I really did not think that he would actually call me. But he did. And I just remember he made me feel significant, something I had never felt before. And so we quickly hooked up, and I quickly became pregnant with his baby. He said, "We're never going to make it together if you don't move out of your mom's house. She's too much in our business." And so he convinced me that the only way that we were going to be able to be together is if I moved down to my mom's house. And I'm like, and how is that supposed to happen? And after the first week, we were out of diapers and formula. Nobody ever told me, if you need something, come ask. And so I didn't know who to reach out to for help. We're out of diapers, we're out of formula, what are we going to do? He said, "Well, I got a job we can do." And I was like, oh, thank God, you know. And for some reason, I thought we were going to clean somebody's house because that's how he told me he got money previously. And after a few minutes, I was like, "So what's the job we're going to do?" And he said, "Well, all you have to do is walk out onto the street. A man is going to stop and pick you up. He's going to offer you money to have sex with him. You have sex with him right there in the car. And when you're done, you have money for her diapers and formula." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, don't you love our baby?" I said, "Well, if you really love her and you were a good mother, you would be willing to do anything for her. Aren't you willing to do anything for her?" I remember this went back and forth, and I couldn't believe what he was asking me to do. And I remember the straw that broke the camel's back was when he checked her diaper, saw that it was wet, and he snapped at me, "Why is her diaper wet?" And I was like, "I told you we don't have any more." He said, "Well, then you better get on out there." So I walked out onto the street. From that point, Greg built and ran one of the largest trafficking rings on the West Coast at that time frame. It consisted of anywhere between 4 to 10 girls at any given time. He controlled us with beatings, with threats to each other, threats to our families, drugs. He got us all addicted to crack cocaine. But I think the most powerful tool that he had to control us and manipulate us was with his words. "You're pathetic. You're stupid. Geez, nobody's ever going to love you but me. You will never make it in the real world. You have to stay with me." And it was with those words and with those threats that he broke each of us down and turned us into what he wanted us to be for him. So I was trafficked by him for the next 13 years. I had 3 children with him. I had many encounters with healthcare providers throughout that time. And I think that is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I know that trafficking victims are reaching out and seeing healthcare providers, whether it's in clinics or hospitals. You know, I was in and out of the hospital and clinics and doctors' offices, and so were all the other females that he trafficked. And so yeah, I mean, the hospital is a place where somebody can start planting seeds, that there is hope, that there is a way out. It was after my 3rd child, and it was about a week later that the police came in the house and to arrest Greg. They took him out and then came over to me and said, "We need to take you down to ask you some questions." And so they started asking me questions, and I just remember I couldn't even comprehend that they had arrested Greg, that maybe he's going away. Greg was so powerful in our lives that I couldn't even fathom that that they would actually lock him up. He's going to get away with it. He's going to be at home tonight. And if he finds out that I said anything to them at all, he's going to beat me. So I did what he always told me to do. He said, you put your eyes to the ground and you don't say a word. And so I did. After a few minutes, the cop got kind of upset and he said, fine, you want to play that game? You're going to be charged with everything he's being charged with. I had 26 felony charges. My bail was $3 million. And I ended up doing 2 years in prison. What victims need are the tools that they need to rescue themselves, and they need your support. Traffickers are very good at what they do. Traffickers take their time to get to know a person and be able to use the things that they learn to manipulate them. And, you know, they're very conniving. They are people that it's not going to be a stranger. It is going to be somebody you know, somebody you trust, somebody you love, somebody that you can't imagine doing anything like that. Because I do remember very early on, one time I did tell a couple of people, and I remember them telling me, stop telling lies. Greg would never do anything like that. I said, okay, fine. Healing from trafficking is a lifelong journey. I say, stop protecting your children, and you may need to bring this information to them. We have got to start providing survivors of human trafficking with the tools, like I said, the tools and the support that lift their own self-esteem. You know, somebody handing me something, you know, I don't want handouts. Just, I want to be able to live my life.
Wow, that really is exactly what we're focused on today, and really illustrates what a challenging issue this really is.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. That really shows the importance of community partnerships and early intervention with human trafficking.
Yeah, it really does illustrate the fact that this is work that's bigger than any one of us, any single person, any single agency. In our community, we rely on our partners in law enforcement, the district attorney's office, other providers like Interface, and we wrap around each other to really deal with the challenging situations that victims are put in.
Yes, it really shows that it takes a community to interact and to create change.
Yes, it really does, and this event is going to be part of that. So we thank you for your support and others really being behind Interface. This is what it takes to make a difference. And now let's enjoy some entertainment together.
For a child to speak, help the family be a better place. translate is all we do. Evaluate, associate, every time you donate, we appreciate all the support from you. We the life for those too weak. We the voice for a child to speak. Help the family be a better place for every child of interface.
The 20th of May, save the day. Your voice is strong, your power is great. We thank you all and all you do for every day he was come true.
We the life for those too weak. We the voice for a child to speak. Help the family be a better place for every child of interface.
Well, that was great. What a performance and what an evening. Really appreciate you being here to help us showcase Interface's work in the community.
I really want to thank Carol and Kathy and Dina, our co-chairs, for this event. And without you and without the people behind the scenes, we really couldn't have put this off this year. This was a difficult year because this is virtual. But you went ahead and you got this going, and thank you for getting it to where it is today. And again, Wendy, thank you so much for sharing your story. That's amazing. Eric, what you do and the staff behind the scenes, you really make a difference in our community.
Thanks,
and
Jeff.
we really want to thank you.
Yeah.
And you, the audience, it's your time to show your generosity and help support this great cause.
Yeah, and we want to thank our sponsors who have generously supported this event and are supporting the work that Interface is doing. And I agree, the staff at Interface is just top-notch. They're doing amazing work, and so a shout out to all of the Interface staff for what you're doing, making a difference in people's lives. And all of you at home, thanks for watching, for participating. Again, the Fund a Need is going to be open until the 23rd, so you have a chance, as you said, Jeff, when you're feeling that need, to come and do that Fund a Need and help fuel that work that we can do throughout the year. Well, that's a wrap.
The show ends tonight, but you have 3 more days to fund the need.
See you next year.
Every time my eyes meet, the feeling inside of me is almost more than I can take. Baby, when you touch me, I feel how much you love me, and it just blows me away. I've never been this close to anyone or anything. I can hear thoughts, I can hear dreams. Don't know how to do what you do. I'm so in love with you, it just keeps getting better. Won't spend the rest of my life with you by my side forever and ever. Every little thing that you do, baby, I'm amazed by you. Smell of your skin, taste of your kiss, the way you whisper in the dark.